Hey y'all, it's your girl Terica and welcome to the Just Uhh Thought Podcast, a safe space to process thoughts and emotions that are common, not talked about, or never really thought about. Let's allow the most authentic parts of ourselves to be seen as the love and guidance of God reveals and heals. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Just Uhh Thought Podcast. I am so excited and honored for you to be joining in and listening. So today, I think I just want to go ahead and jump right in. It shouldn't be too long of an episode, but so I just want to say I'm starting a series that I have been in desperate need of myself, if I'm being completely honest. So I was like, okay, so if I'm going to walk through this, then why not just go ahead and turn it into a podcast series? So this series may be for you, or you may only resonate with certain episodes, but I just encourage you to take what you need. So I've made serious strides to move forward and become my best self. And it hasn't been easy or fun, if I'm being honest. You know, life does not stop lifing so that you can catch your breath. It continues to require you to keep moving. Now, if you move forward or if you move in circles, that's completely your decision. And I realize that I'm tired of moving in circles and it's time to move forward. For me, in order to start moving forward, I have to come out of some things, primarily situations that seem to have me bound. So I want to start by asking a question. What happened? And when I say what happened, I mean, what happened that's keeping you currently where you are, but you don't really want to be? If you hear this question and your mind immediately goes to that specific event, your heart starts to race and you begin to feel overwhelmed with emotion like you did in the very moment of when it happened, then this episode is for you. So what actually did happen? Did you lose a loved one? Did you walk away from someone? Did someone walk away from you? Were you abused? Did you lose a job? Did you lose a child? Did you receive a life-altering diagnosis? Were you served divorce papers? What actually happened? And you know, this question used to paralyze me. Well, okay, let me rephrase. The story that followed the question used to paralyze me. And I wish I could say that I've only had one or two things happen to me in life that has caused me to feel paralyzed by the outcome. But unfortunately, that's not my story. And I'm sure it's not yours either. The thing about life is that we will find ourselves in situations that just happen, often inciting feelings of no control, no choice, no time to decide, and barely time to react. It just happened. The idea of moving forward is something that I believe anyone would desire after an unwanted or traumatic situation, but we have to remember that desire and attainment can often seem hundreds of thousands of miles apart from each other, and that's how it felt for me. I would constantly find myself at the beginning of what I thought was moving forward too many times and then eventually be led to discouragement and doubt. I would find myself in repeated cycles of grief, anger, frustration, feelings of despair and disassociation. And so I began to realize that moving forward was a process that I would have to be fully committed to. I would have to commit to feeling all the things that I constantly pushed past and even tried to spiritually bypass. I had a deep-rooted belief that going back to what happened and processing those moments and emotions would keep me stuck, and that I would never be able to come out of it. And this is something that I dealt with for years, even with therapy. I was so scared that I would become trapped. But honestly, truthfully, I was already trapped. I just didn't realize it. I learned how to disassociate when needed for days, weeks, and even years at a time. It felt safer, and I thought that I was protecting myself from more pain. So for example, something or someone would trigger wounds from undealt with situations, and I would find myself experiencing the emotions as if the situation would be happening again. I would count down the days till therapy, but when therapy came, it would be as if it never happened. My therapist would ask if anything new happened or came up since the last time we met, and I would sometimes almost forget to mention that I was just spiraling a week or two prior. And when I mentioned it, it would be in a very passive way. And so my body was so used to pushing through long enough for it to just completely remove itself from the reality that I really wasn't okay. I would spend 50 minutes trying to convince me and my therapist that I really had moved forward, only to go through the same or similar cycle weeks or months later about the same situation. This was something that took me a while to break. I would go to therapy, fast and pray, all the things. And I could feel God nudging me to revisit certain places with him, but would completely shut it down. So there became a consistent cycle of God, help me get over this. God, help me get through this. But, you're going to have to give me another way because I do not want to go back to that situation and process it. And he would be like, yeah, no, this is the way. And I'm so glad that God is gracious, kind, and not like man, because I would have been done with me a long time ago. But he is persistent and committed to seeing me fully healed and unbound. And he truly does feel the same way about you. And believing this is so crucial. So I think it's important to understand that going back and revisiting that certain situation is vital. And I'm not going back to re-traumatize myself or to ruminate, but I like to think of it as I'm going back to get me, to get who I was before the situation occurred, going back to loosen the grip and control that the situation has on me. I'm going back with God and allowing him to cut me out of the chains and webs that have me paralyzed and stuck. And so this realization of not being bound to what happened was truly my first step to moving forward. I had to be okay with saying, yes, this happened. This is how it happened. And I'm not bound to it or under the weight of it anymore. And processing with God was crucial for me because it allowed me to realize that he really was and is with me. Being able to see and feel him dismantle my belief system and bring peace to what once crippled me was indeed liberating. So now let's talk about some ways that we can process. The first would be writing or journaling. So with this, you're just writing down what happened and what was felt in the moment of that situation. And even you can write down what you're currently feeling as you're writing. And I just want to add that it would sometimes take me multiple takes to actually start journaling, let alone finish journaling. And even when I would start, I would find myself in moments getting so frustrated being able to see in like written ink what actually happened. But I want to encourage you to still press through that. And it may take a couple of times of restarting to finally finish it. But there's something about writing. For me, it makes me slow down and feel, reflect, which can be hard, like I said at first, but it definitely does help. The next thing or the next way that we can process is, of course, my favorite. I've talked about this. I probably like all of my episodes, but licensed therapy. And if you've been interested in finding a therapist, but not sure if it's really for you, you don't really know, hey, is this something that I really want to invest in? Then I just suggest researching licensed therapists in your area. And then once you find one that you connect well with, begin working towards building a relationship with them, and then just let it flow at the pace that you're comfortable with, right? You don't have to find a therapist and immediately go into trying to, tear down all this stuff and heal. I mean, it takes time to build trust with someone. So just enjoy that process of learning them learning you, and then becoming open to going into deeper and tougher topics to cover. But if you're someone like me that has been in therapy for years and certain topics have stayed off limits, then I encourage you to consider tearing that wall down little by little. It doesn't have to be all at once. But I think it's important to remind ourselves that this is the person that we have chosen to walk this phase of life through with. And maybe it's time to start fully benefiting from them and, start really walking into freedom and liberation in those areas that we have kind of closed off. And last, but definitely not least, is prayer and time with God. And no matter what route you take to process, it's important that you make sure that God is involved, because y'all, this stuff can get heavy. Okay. And I said earlier that, how I would fast and pray, but wouldn't take heed to what God was needing from me. And that was honesty and an open heart. I wasn't fully honest with him about how I felt, and definitely wasn't coming with an open heart. And I think it's important, just like I said, that, with the therapist, we build that relationship. It is also important, even if we do have a relationship with God, just to kind of reinforce that relationship, right? So going back to who he is and how he loves and who his character is and how he shows up for us, reinforcing that love and our belief system in him, and then fully walking into, okay, now let's try to process this together, because I remember now and I know now that you have my back. And so just rest in knowing that whenever he reveals, it is to heal, right? And I have to remind myself of that when situations come up that he brings to my remembrance, or whatever the case may be. It is not to taunt me. It is not to, make me feel bad about myself, or to make me feel guilt or shame. It is oftentimes he is nudging me and reminding me, like, hey, I do remember that this happened, and I really want to heal you from it, and we need to walk through this together. And so this is not an exhaustive list, but just a few ways that can maybe get you started. And I just believe that, you can find a way that works best for you and to start moving forward. If you're choosing to start working towards moving forward, whether it's starting here at this step, or maybe you're further along, but you're finding yourself in like a little hung up, stuck spot, I just want to remind you to be kind to yourself. Okay, this is a process, and every situation will not be processed the exact same way. And every situation will not be processed in the exact same time frame. You might find relief and resolve quickly with some situations, and then other situations may take you consistently showing up, but I want to encourage you to still show up for yourself. So I want to leave us with a couple of things to remember. I guess you can kind of say like affirmations, but just kind of remembering these things and repeating them to ourselves, just to kind of maybe soothe the fear, anxiety that may come with the thought of even processing what happened. And so let's just remember that there is a life to live after what happened. I am not stuck in what happened. I have permission to step out of what happened. I do not belong to what happened. What happened is not the end. And what happened does not have to determine what will and can happen in the future. So like always, thank you so much for taking time to listen to this episode. I hope that you were able to get what you needed and start your journey of moving forward. I'll see you in the rest of the series. Have a good one.